And with me cutting through the BS, I could make a convincing video about how our Milky Way and other spiral galaxies are the equivalent of some kind of optical computer disks and or magnetic computer disks, as we bear in mind that galactic disks are magnetic. This video, however, factors in biology, whereby I am going to be showing you the similarities between what are called microfluidic centrifugal laboratory on disk devices and our Milky Way and other spiral galaxies. Centrifugal lab on disk devices, aka biodisks, can include optical and magnetic biodisks, which operate under the same principle as computer disks and are in part used by doctors and scientists to detect, identify, process, and analyze cells, DNA, and other matter at the microscopic level. These disks use centrifugal force to move fluid through their microfluidic structures, as we bear in mind that outer space behaves like some kind of fluid in which we are circulating through our galaxy's spiral rings as if through a biodisk, literally. Centrifugal lab-on biodisks store, track, and manipulate cells and DNA in spiral tracks, as well as channels and orifices that connect different regions of these disks. Centrifugal disks and data disks respectively rotate at speeds that range between hundreds of RPMs and thousands of RPMs. The 4 or 5 or more rings of our Milky Way are estimated by astronomers to rotate at their own varying speeds each, which supposedly vary between 200 and 250,000 kilometers per second. I also need to include the concept of black holes that supposedly riddle our Milky Way and other spiral galaxies, and that supposedly link different regions of space via their wormholes and white holes in some kind of interconnected network, just like centrifugal microfluidic disks have networks of inlet and outlet holes and channels that serve as links to various parts of the disk and the macro environment, respectively, including inlet valves for active flow control of fluids and a set of structural dynamics that appears to mirror the structural dynamics of our Milky Way and other spiral galaxies. Two of my favorite and most amazing comparisons that I hope are yours too include what are called DNA thermocycler biodisks compared to our Milky Ways and other galactic disks and their black holes and their accretion disks, including the giant black hole that supposedly exists at the center of our Milky Way galaxy, with key words here being the words thermal and cycling, including thermal cycling, with many of you already likely aware of the fact that black holes are always busy pulling in and processing stars, planets, moons, and dust and gas and so forth, and recycling what's left of them back out into the interstellar medium with help from thermodynamic and probably magnetic forces and so forth. Not unlike how different types of DNA thermal cycling disks process cells, tissue, fluids, and so forth using thermodynamics and or magnetic and or centrifugal force, as you bear in mind that DNA thermocyclers are just another biomedical device that is used by doctors and scientists for the purpose of genetic identification and determining inheritance patterns and so forth. Let us not doubt for a second that the powerful centrifugal force generated by the spin of our Milky Way galaxy would have something to do with the location of our solar system and ourselves right here at the tail end of the Orion arm, our spur. This means that the Orion arm, our spur, harbors the nebula from which our sun and the rest of our solar system was birthed, from the placenta of molecular hydrogen clouds and other matter, in a process that took billions of years, with the centrifugal spin of our Milky Way somehow resulting in our solar system's mathematically perfect location in our Milky Way. Key words: mathematically perfect location. like the equally mathematically perfect locations of the sample and detection chambers in these microfluidic lab-on-disk biodisks, including destination and mixing and waste chambers and so forth, that we can see built into these devices, with the central black hole of our Milky Way being in just the right place to serve as the sample inlet and loading chamber and ports and so forth. Where these comparisons become even more shocking, pun intended, is when we consider that the Milky Way's Orion arm or spur is in the exact same location relative to the shock interface in this centrifugal microfluidic blood plasma extraction or separation disk, as we bear in mind that star formation is transpiring in the Orion spur or arm, in part because the galactic centrifugal force is pulling stars outward and together into a bunch that collide and explode, with their violent shock waves expanding outward and collapsing the surrounding molecular clouds into protostars, which eventually form adult stars around which planets and moons accrete and form. Let us bear in mind that everything I have asserted thus far in this video requires suns, planets, moons, asteroids, meteors, and so forth to be the equivalent of cells. The internal structures of the suns, planets, and moons are mere images of the structures of living cells, with the internal and living cells and suns, planets, and moons, and even black holes being structural mirror images of each other, and respectively serving as DNA and RNA. And if you understood and liked this video, then like, share, subscribe, and be sure to hit the notification bell, as well as leave questions and comments that I may or may not be able to respond to.